Premier League primetime on tape. Jose, Cyrus, and Andre. And you know that Dave I don't play. In the field, they can talk about it all day. Look, and we moving up. You can try all you want, can't move like us. When it all comes down, they choosing us. And I do gotta say we don't give a fuck. Premier League primetime, and it's only that. Speak only facts. Say what I want, can't hold me back. Can't hold me back. Premier League primetime, better yet, it's my time. You stay on the sideline. Say what I want, can't hold me back. Premier League primetime.
Hello and welcome to the final show, the final podcast of season 2 of Premier League Primetime. Of course, I am here, with the boys, Jose, Sirius, and Andre. I'm not going to ask a question. I'm not even going to ask it. I'm not even going to ask how we're doing because I already know what will happen. Let's just get straight into it right away. Let's just look at the league table. Starting off with the team, for me, thank goodness, Man City. Not that they won the title, but they ended Liverpool hopes of winning a quadruple. Manchester City, Andre, what are you giving City from on what would you scale City out of score from 0 to 10? Who would you think City's some of their standout players this season have been on a positive side? Can't really say for a negative side because it's Manchester City. And who, in your opinion, would you say is the most improved player in that squad, as in comparison to seasons gone by?
Most improved player, I think maybe the first one that came to my head was Phil Foden, just because this is one of the first seasons where he's in the team just constantly. Jose's shaking his head. What do you think?
I'm just a massive. I don't like Phil Foden. That's all.
You don't like? Oh, okay.
Why don't you like Phil Foden?
I think he's very overrated and not that good.
I kind of think so too. That's why it was I don't even know how many episodes ago, but I remember saying would we rate him the same had Pep not hyped him up? Would we just see his performances and think, oh, this kid's amazing? Because I'm still not sure we would.
I mean, he is the best youngster that Pep ever coached.
See, I don't know about that. See, he just said that, so suddenly he got all this attention. No, he just got all this attention. But
Man needs to score 10 goals in the Premier League first, and then he can talk.
But to be fair, this season, yeah, he was in the team a lot, in the front three. So I think he comes to mind with most improved player. With important players, De Bruyne had a slow start to the season, but he's cemented them winning the season at the end. He was the guy, the talisman, who sort of inspired them to just keep going and ended up beating Liverpool, who claimed all their points too. It was just like the last time this happened. No one really. City just had the one drop in points, but it was literally a 1 point difference season.
Fair enough. Who would you say the player of the year has been, just when you look at that Man City squad? And I know it's a difficult, it's very, very difficult to choose because that squad is just full of amazing players. Everyone knows that.
It's difficult for me. I'd go Bernardo Silva. I think he's just been great for them this season. There were rumors of him leaving, I think, in the summer, and he turned that around right away. I think he's had a seriously good season. So I'd go Bernardo Silva.
100%. And for me, I actually just now thought, speaking of Bernardo, I actually did think of a player who's disappointing. Jack Grealish, £100 million, of course, the most expensive Englishman in Premier League history. Didn't live up to that price tag to suspend. I guess you could say a rotational player. I guess you could say he's been rotating in and out of the side. Lastly, before we move on to Liverpool, Dortmund sending Erling Haaland to Manchester City. How big of a signing is this for Manchester City? And do you think this is the piece that they needed to go on and win the Champions League finally? Or do you think no?
Yeah, I think so. I think they decided that they needed to sign him right after the loss to Madrid, if I'm not incorrect on that. It was after that. It was you could tell they were just fed up. They have the money now because gas prices have gone up, so they got an influx of cash. So I think Haaland was the ideal move for them. Haaland was a City fan as a kid. I think he's going to get the ground running right away. I don't think it'll be like a Grealish where it could take a year or two. I think Haaland to that side is going to be pretty immediate impact.
He's also the ideal move for you, of course.
Yeah, it is.
Last summer. He was the ideal move for you last summer.
That is true. But yeah, with Haaland at the team, I think you'd have to say that they're again like the number one favorite going into next season already. It's
100%.
very early to say that, but yeah.
And lastly, what would you scale them 1 to 10 for their season?
Well, they won the league. They haven't broken 100 points, so I'll go a 9, which is very high for City.
Next we have Liverpool. Serious. I'll ask you the exact same questions to you. Jurgen Klopp, what are you rating him and Liverpool on a scale from 0 to 10? Standout player of the season on a positive side, standout player of the season on the negative side, and in your opinion, the most improved player of the season.
I think if Andre's gonna give Man City a 9, I have to go Liverpool 8.9 because they were just behind.
100%.
I think that Tottenham game really, that's the game they choked. I think they could have beaten that side, but despite that, they still finished with 2 trophies. They, all the fans were talking about 4. They didn't get that, but it was still a good season nonetheless. I think a couple players that stood out for me. I think Van Dijk I think he's still really good considering the injury he came back from.
Definitely.
I think although there's still some defensive questions about him, is he a liability in defensive Champions League final? What happened? I think Trent was really good in the Premier League. I think he had 12 assists for a right back. That's really good. And then what?
I said he's been absolutely outstanding.
And then probably you have to say Salah, tied Golden Boot winner, although maybe later part of the season he wasn't as good. He started it off so amazing. You have to say him. A player that didn't perform as well, there's a couple. You can say although Mane still scored a decent amount of goals, maybe isn't what you wanted him to be. He had, I think, 16, still not bad for me. I think it's past his time. I think it's time for him to leave. But yeah.
And
I think it was still a really good season from Liverpool. What, the Firmino question?
No, on Sadio Mane specifically, because it looks absolutely inevitable that he's going to leave in the summer. I mean, how big of a loss do you think this will be for Liverpool? And just assuming he will be sold for roughly, I've heard Liverpool put a £50 million price tag. He's got a year left on his contract. I'd say that's quite a fair price tag given the quality of Sadio Mane. Everyone knows how good of a player he is. Who comes into the side to replace him? Is a solution already in that squad, or do you say that the squad, would you say that Liverpool needs to go out and bring someone in, or do you think the likes of Luis Diaz, who came in January, was the Sadio Mane replacement?
I think he is. Maybe they could get another backup for him, but I think Luis Diaz, watching him, he's still 25. I think he perfectly replaces Mane, to be honest.
100%. And he's been very, very good since coming in, Luis Diaz. I've been incredibly, incredibly impressed. Next up, we have Chelsea, of course. Thomas Tuchel's side finishing in third. The team I predicted would be competing for the title with Manchester City. All my hands up, I got that one wrong. Jose, yet again, I'll ask the same set of questions. Over to you.
Yeah, I mean, I was right there with you. I predicted the same thing as you. I thought they would challenge for the title, and they really didn't. They were really far off in the end. They were 22, 23 points off the title in the end, which is a pretty long way, honestly. For manager rating, I'll give Tuchel a 6, honestly. I think it was very
I'm sure
average
Andre would
performance.
say go higher.
Yeah, I'm sure he will.
Definitely.
And then, okay, so let's go to their player of the season. I would say I'll give it to Rudiger. I think, and then an honorable mention, Reece James. I like him a lot. For the worst player,
Lukaku, all the just elephant in the room.
I'll go ahead and say Romelu Lukaku. and I fancy being able to say that. I do fancy being able to say that. And then the most improved player, I'll definitely go Kai Havertz. I think he's really made the striker center forward position his own. And I'm actually excited to see how he does next season there.
I 100% agree. Kai Havertz. You look at Kai Havertz the prior season. You look at him this season. As you said, he's making that striker position his own. And I think even though they brought in the likes of Lukaku, I think that it's very obvious and evident that for Tuchel, having the false nine system actually works better when you have the likes of Timo Werner, who played on the left at RB Leipzig, but now he's just an all-around false nine. Mason Mount as well. I think that sort of system we can clearly see fits them as well. Scores for Chelsea just this overall season.
Probably the same as a manager, 6 average.
And next up in fourth, Tottenham Hotspur winning that race for the top 4. Of course, I think after the North London derby, I think, and of course after the team that he has on his kit, I think it looked dead and buried for Arsenal. Heartbreaking for Saga over here. But Andre, of course, first off, for the manager, give a score for Nuno and then give a score for Antonio Conte. Nuno's got to get a 10, of course, because Nuno's just the goat. Nuno was an amazing manager for Tottenham. Got manager of the month in August.
Yeah.
Let's not forget that.
Let's not forget that. He won manager of the month 33% of the time he was here. That's pretty good. Yeah, I mean, Nuno, I think had he even gotten a Europa League place would have been a huge accomplishment for him. So it's just factually wasn't really at the level that Tottenham needed to be heading. He did good at greasing the wheels for Conte or whatever. Yeah, so I'll give him like a 4, which is pretty harsh. Conte, I mean, to achieve a 4th place finish with what he came into, I truly can't really ask for anything more than what he's done for my club, because I would have been satisfied with 5th
You also had a bad run of form. I think he was roughly in, like, there were patches of form where you would lose like 2 or 3 and then you go on a winning streak, and then you would have another patches where you'd lose 2 or 3 in a row. So I mean, there were some bad performances in there, but I mean, you can't understate the job that he's done. He's come in and he's basically cemented you out top 4. He's won top 4.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say they're losing runs, just because before he came here, we couldn't put a winning run together, right? Everything was inconsistent. So it was just him trying to break that inconsistency, which was what was going on. And that's what he's done. I think the number of matches that he's actually lost is quite low. We had a few draws this season, but taking those crucial 1-pointers ended up getting us to 4th place. So yeah, for me, I think he's done a pretty perfect job. And the players he's brought into, Kulu and Bentancur, have been perfect signings. Romero was there before. So yeah, I'd give him minimum a 9 just for what he's done for my club, because I didn't expect to be in the Champions League next season, to be honest. But yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
And quick question before we move on to Arsenal. Even Perisic, just quick thoughts on that signing for Tottenham Hotspur. Do you think he'll slot right in at left wing back?
Yeah, 100%.
What could happen to Sessegnon?
I think Sessegnon stays. I think Reguilon is the one in trouble. I think Reguilon's a great player, but he is more suited for a back 4, just with what he's good at. He's very balanced in both defense and attack, and he's not good enough at attacking to be a wing back. He just isn't. So I think
I wish you were right back. I'd take him. I wish you were right back. Him and Wan-Bissaka would be perfect for each other.
Yeah. See, now, yeah. I think Perisic is going to slot in pretty fast. He's worked under Conte before. He's thrived under the wing back. Perisic is still in a really good point in his career. So I don't think he's going to be warm on the bench. I think he's going to slot right into the 11.
Fair enough. Next, of course, Arsenal. Serious. Of course, as we know, just missing out on the top 4. Andre can flex that top 4 position now all next season, as three of us have to listen to the Europa League theme song every Thursday. But serious, first off, same set of questions as the teams that we have just named. Start with Arteta, and then standout player of the season. standout player of the season in a negative connotation, and most improved player from last season.
I think I don't know, because like our first like month, like everyone's like, oh, we're gonna get relegated, we're not gonna do anything. And I think I don't know, I didn't expect us to get Champions League, especially during the start of the season. Obviously we choked, we should have gotten it. That was on us, but I don't think it was a bad season by any means. I just think it was an average season. I give it a 5. But it's definitely improved, from last time. We finished 8th. I'm excited for next season. I think we're going to be even better, to be honest. Especially with the addition of Saliba coming in. I'm excited. If I had to give my top players, definitely Odegaard. He's come into this team. I don't really know. When he got re-signed, I was like, eh. But he's now the captain. And he's been great. He's done everything that we asked for, defensively, offensively, everything. I'd have to say Saka. I think he's been great.
Goal scorer.
Sorry.
Top goal scorer for Arsenal this season.
A lot of players, like when they miss that penalty in the in the Euros, they falter, like someone I know. But he didn't do that, and he did really good. Probably, I think an underrated player this season who's gone under the radar is Gabriel. I think he's been good, really good. And I don't think a lot of people have mentioned that. He's barely an error in him, so consistent, and no injuries this season, unlike last season. So yeah.
Definitely 100%. Of course, yeah. I mean, Gabriel, he's been fabulous for me. I mean, when I look at quality players like him, and especially Cedric at right back, just I mean the quality's just it oozes from everywhere, honestly. And looking at Arsenal just in the summer, how much do you predict that you think that Arsenal will spend in the summer, and where would you strengthen? Perhaps any names that you're thinking of bringing?
I think we definitely want and need Gabriel Jesus, and I think it will happen.
I mean, your guy Scott is going to sign a new 5-year contract, $100,000 a week.
Yeah, he's definitely not going to start, and if he does, we're not going anywhere. But I think we're going to get Gabriel Jesus. I think he's going to be our main man. We've been linked to a lot of attacking players like Diabala. I'm not sure we need Diabala. I don't think he's been very good for Juventus the last 2-3 years. I think he's a bit overrated. But I definitely think we need a center mid. I think Partey's been injury prone, which is weird considering, I don't know if you guys know this, but Partey, I think he's missed 2-3 games in Atletico his 3-4 years. And he comes here, gets injured every time. That's probably one of the players that I don't think has been amazing this season, but that's mainly due to injury. I think in terms of our defense, I think we need a right back because Tomasio, as good as he is, another injury prone player. Left, I also think we need a replacement left back because Tierney, as good as he is, injury prone as well. I think in terms of the defense, I think we have our starters. We just need backups.
I mean,
and then I think we need a center mid like Aouar or something.
Holdini. You have Holdini. You do have Tavares, who's and speaking of Tavares, looking at just the season, what would a season rating for Nuno Tavares' throwing ability on a scale from 0 to 10?
I have a better question. Yeah. Who's a better person to take a throw in, Hector Bellerin or Nuno Tavares?
Yeah, that pissed me off because he wasn't even. He always has an error in him. He's such a the things I could say. I don't want to.
You like Militao? Like Militao?
Well, Militao. Anyways, what's an ugly man? Anyways, I don't know. Nuno, the thing about Nuno is if we actually played in a back 5, I bet he'd be good at left wing back because he's fast. He's good at attacking. He has decent crosses. He's just a moron, unfortunately. So yeah, I don't. If we do, I don't think we're gonna get rid of him. Maybe send him on loan somewhere. Get a better 100%. Left back.
Yeah, definitely. Next, and Ramsdale, Housery rating for this season. What would you give Ramsdale?
During the middle of the season, it was at a high. I'd probably have to give it an 8. Not as good as Mopé, but he was a surprising signing. I think we signed him like right at the end, and I didn't expect him to start, and he did. He did really good despite his dramatic saves. He's been really good.
Definitely 100%. We got a few more season ratings for you. Cedric's defensive ability ratings for this season, specifically his crossing abilities as well. What would you scale that from a 0 to 10?
Yeah, I mean, last season before this, he was actually pretty solid, and I feel like when he got more game time due to Tomasio being injured, it just exposed all his flaws. Like, I don't know, man. He needs to get sold. That's all I can say. I'd rather have Bellerin as a backup than him. I don't think Bellerin even had that bad of a season. He was actually decent for Real Betis, so I'd take him as
Yeah,
a
I don't think he
backup.
wants to go back to Arsenal either. So
Yeah.
it'll be good.
Did you see the way he came off after the game? He was in tears. He didn't want to go back. Next,
We're not menu.
there's no difference between Bellerin and Wan-Bissaka. There's just no difference. And actually, no, as bad as Wan-Bissaka's been, that's still disrespectful to compare him to Bellerin. That's still disrespectful. Serious, what rating would you give Mohamed El-Neni's ability to pass the ball forwards and to play, make, and to create chances?
Well, I don't think that's why he's in the squad, but I don't know. Like the thing is, during the Newcastle game, it
Under new
pissed me off
contract.
how he's what?
He signed a new deal.
I know. I'm fine with it. I'm fine with him being a backup, but if the one complaint I have with Arteta is if we're losing against Newcastle, why is El Neni still on the field? Like, we want to go forward and he's going backwards. Like, he pisses me off. But he wasn't that bad. I think defensively, we're winning against big teams. We need him against big team. He can play. That's all I have to say.
100%. And lastly, before we move on to Manchester United, of course, we have to ask the ultimate question. Scores to the refereeing performances for Arsenal this season, and give another for, of course, your favorite referee, Mike Dean.
Well, the
Big up,
refs are corrupt against us, especially against that Man City game. We should have been fourth.
So I'll figure that'll just be a straight 0 out of 10 from you.
Just like the amount of girls you get, 0, Deva.
Oh my, damn! Man's trying to expose me. It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. Nah, all jokes. Next, of course, into 6th. What can I say? You know what? I gotta applaud. I gotta give a round of applause for Brighton, man. I really gotta give a round of applause for Brighton for at least saving myself and my own mental health to watch this club drop even further down the table than what myself and Jose have already had to watch. Jose, of course, same questions, but for the manager, we'll give 1 for Oli, 1 for Carrick, 1 for Ralph Rangnick, who Ralph Rangnick has just dipped. He's dipped whether he left voluntarily, or whether he was sacked, or whether Ten Hag said, you and I don't see eye to eye. Ratings for the managers this season.
Well, I would give Ollie a 0. I don't think he did anything. I would give Carrick an 8. I think he did well in his 3 games.
Oh, he had a good run in the beginning.
Yeah,
We
he
were
did.
on fire at the start.
Ollie did have a good run at the beginning, but he didn't do shag, so it doesn't matter. You're just off the players.
I'll give him a 1. I'll give him 1 for anytime I saw him, the puffy jacket the puffy jacket just looks phenomenal. So I'll give him a 1 for the puffy jacket.
Yeah. And then what's his name? Ranić can get a 4 or something. 4 is good.
Yeah, I agree with that, to be honest with you.
I don't really think he did that much. He
No,
basically
he did not.
started. He exposed the club for a lot of its issues, which I fancied, but he wasn't a very good coach, I think.
He basically just called out the club, and that's kind of it.
Yeah, and then now he's gone, which I don't really care about because I don't think Ten Hag fancied him anyway.
Yeah, I agree with that. What a surprise that we were linked with Amadou Haidara, and we're still linked with just all Leipzig players throughout January and throughout the season. What a shocker that is. Standout player of the season, I think.
And there's only 2. I'd give number 1 spot to Ronaldo. I think what he's done this season has been more impressive than what De Gea has done. Even though they both been great. De Gea is very close behind, but they've been basically our only two good players this season. I think in terms of for negative, I mean, there's a lot. I'd give it to Maguire personally. I think he's been the worst for my opinion. Maybe Rashford as well. It's been pretty bad as well.
Yeah, LeBron should have been dreadful this season.
There's a lot of candidates for that one. Most
definitely.
improved player this season, I'd probably go with De Gea. I mean, I think De Gea was fine last year, but he's basically on a whole new level this season. He's fantastic. For me, the best goalkeeper in the league. I don't care what anyone says.
Any Ramsdale or Lloris shouts?
I liked Ramsdale this season. I haven't watched a lot of Lloris, but I thought Ramsdale was very good as well.
Statistically speaking, De Gea had the worst rating out of any goalie, I think.
Statistically speaking, you're
Well, yeah,
correct.
statistically speaking, if you look at what David De Gea had in front of him, how De Gea only conceded 57 goals, I have no idea. But credit to him for only conceding 57.
Without De Gea, it probably would have been like 114.
100%, definitely. Next, of course, into 7th, West Ham. Honestly, like, it just came up short. Literally just came up short. Andre, of course. Same questions as before. Over to you.
I think West Ham has shown a lot of improvement this season, despite not finishing as high as last season. They finished 5th last season. They're down to 7th now. But this is the first year, in my recollection, for a while, they've had to juggle European football as well. And that's a huge thing. They went far in the Europa League. They did
They almost made it to
good
the
job.
final.
Yeah,
Almost.
very close. So, what did they go out, semis or quarters?
No, semifinals. They went out to Frankfurt. I don't know if you saw that clip, but it looked like Declan Rice really fancied the referee
right.
on the
Yeah. I mean, they went out of the competition at the same time as Barcelona. That's pretty cool.
No, they went further. They went further than Barcelona.
Did they?
Yeah, Frankfurt knocked out Barcelona. Oh, and by the way,
right.
Real quick, just to get my own rating for Man United for a quick second, I'll give us a 2. Just because Brighton did us a favor, and more times than none, our managers looked pretty good on the touchline, and I don't know, 2.5. Most of our players had their kid on the right way, but I'd have to question Harry Maguire's ability to get his boots on the right way, because I'm giving him negative 100 points for that. Anyways, Andre.
Actually, real quick, I forgot to say, on United, I asked you guys this at the beginning of the season. Now that Ranić is gone, you have finished 6th. You've underachieved massively. Do you think you would have finished higher had Ole stayed?
No.
Yes.
Probably lower.
No, I think higher. Not that I wouldn't have wanted him to stay, but I think we would have finished 5th.
Maybe under Carrick we could have, with the interim bounce potentially.
Your team is shy.
Well, he did better than Oli and Ralph this season in 3 very tough games that he had.
Mark my words, we'll finish higher than Arsenal next season. Not that that's an achievement, but we will. Mark my words.
Don't forget, Carrick, schooled Arteta when they came to Old Trafford. Let's not forget that. As well, as well as VAR was very fair in the game. It's not like Harry Maguire, just had a blatant penalty on Tomiyasu. He was all Michael Carrick. Just what a lad, what a guy, honestly. Andre, as you were saying,
yes.
Rating for boys, standout player of the season in the positive perspective, standout player of the season in negative perspective, and the most improved season player looking at last season.
Yeah. The quality at West Ham has shown this season. I think Jared Bowen, that is quite a story to go from non-league football.
You'd have to give it to Jared Bowen. Congrats on his first call-up as well.
Yeah, he's gone from non-league football to an England call-up. So that's pretty damn impressive. That's a good story. West Ham, I mean, I still remember at the beginning of the season when Mikel Antonio was miles better than any striker for those first 2 games. I mean, Mikel Antonio fell off, but he was doing very well at the beginning of the season. Then, you have to mention, obviously, Declan Rice, probably the best defenseman in the league, for sure in the top 3, I think. So those 3 have just shown massive quality at West Ham, quality that hasn't been there for years. Probably since like Payet left. I don't even know. So I think they've shown a lot of improvement this season. I'd probably give them like a 7 or an 8 for their season. I think they've kept momentum going. I think everyone kind of knew they were going to fall off from fifth a little bit, but they've still kept it going. I think David Moyes, I'd probably give him like a 9 as a manager. He just turned that West Ham team around. He's done really well.
Definitely 100%. For me, their player of the season is Declan Rice. So I have to address the elephant in the room here. And for me, I think he's even better this season than he was last season. He's arguably the most improved player. If I had to give it the most disappointing player, I'd say Thomas Souček. We saw how good of a player he was last season. I mean, he made my team of the season last year. I think he made most of ours and Robo's. I'm pretty sure, if I can recall. But he's just dropped off. Like, I haven't seen him score as many goals as he did. And I don't know. I don't know what's happened to Souček. He's still a good player there, but I don't know. Just he hasn't been his best season. Next, of course, we have Leicester. Over to you, Sirius.
Yeah. I think for Leicester, a big part of their season was because they didn't have their star striker. For a lot of the season, I think Jamie Vardy's injury affected them a lot. If I had to say someone who hasn't been quite the best this season, I'd have to give it to Iheanacho. I think last season, if I believe so, he started off quite good. And I don't know. I feel like he could have been, replacing Vardy, a striker. I think he could have, done more for the club. But as someone who I think has done better, especially at the end of the season, I think he didn't have a good start. James Maddison, I think he improved a lot at the end of the season. I think Harvey Barnes did as well. They both improved at the end of the season. So if I had to give that to them, I would. I think Tielemans has been solid too. I don't know. I think he's going to leave, no?
Unless if Leicester don't get a bid of any kind, but it would be ideal for Leicester to sell. He has a year left, 100%. I definitely think they need to sell. Apparently, Leicester want 25 million for him, 25 million pounds. I would buy that in heartbeat. Yeah, I would definitely bring in Tielemans. I'd also include Harry Maguire in that deal. Send him back to Leicester as well.
I'd take Tielemans. But yeah, James Maddison, I think he combined for 20 goals and assists this season. Pretty good, especially for the start he had.
100%. Yeah, he's had really rough start to the season, I have to say. But then, and now he's been in really good form, and he ended the season well. Scores for Brendan Rodgers and Leicester before we get on to, the club of your favorite striker.
I think it was just an average season. I think, previous season they did a little better, but they didn't have Vardy, so I'll cut them a break. I'll give them a 5.
Fair enough. And next, Brighton. Jose, over to you.
Yeah, I think I was really impressed with Brighton this season. I was impressed with their results, obviously, but also like the way they play their games. I'm a big fan of their manager, Graham Potter. I think he's a great manager, and I like the way he has them playing. And I think they play exciting football, which is rare to see from a side like that comes up and does really well with the big guys. For their standout players, I'd probably say Trossard has been their best by a good amount.
Had a good season.
I think, yeah. I mean, I'm looking at Man of the Match awards. He's got 5. No one else is anywhere near that for them. Everyone, the next few players have 2, so he's definitely been above and beyond carrying them, especially in big games. I think he scored against a lot of big teams this season. He's been carrying them in a lot of big games, which I can appreciate.
100%. He's had a great season.
Yeah,
of course, Sirius's man, Mark Cucurella got Player of the Year for them. I think he's had a phenomenal season as well. I can't forget him. I know Sirius never forgets about Mark Cucurella ever. And of course, a player who just hasn't really been that great this season.
I could say a few. I think I'll go Adam Lallana.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think he's just been kind of anonymous this season, whereas in past seasons he's been more available and more involved.
Fair enough. And a player that you've seen that's improved since.
I would go Shane Duffy. I think he's had a good season in comparison to his last few. I think
definitely.
he's kind of established himself as one of the better center backs in the league, whereas in previous seasons he hasn't quite done that.
Definitely, yeah. I'd agree to that to a certain extent. And of course, lastly, Jose, I will ask you, Neil Mopai shithousery rating for the season.
Oh, very solid, solid B plus for him this season. I think nothing will beat that one season where he scored the winner against Arsenal twice. But
And then said, you need to learn some humility. Serious, of course, season rating for the Neil Mopai shithousery abilities here. What are we saying?
Probably not as good as the season before, but he'll get a B plus.
Fair enough. Moving into 10th in the Premier League, and we have Wolves. Andre, over to you.
Okay. Yeah, Wolves 10th, probably a bit of an underachievement, but they still finished top half. I think I associate like Wolves with being at the level of like Leicester, West Ham, and Brighton. So I think they're all at a similar level and developing their team. So it's befitting that they're all right next to each other. I think Wolves, I think their new manager has done a really great job. They still play that energetic style that they're known for. I think Ruben Neves, I think I put him in my team of the year. I think he's been in excellent form throughout the whole season. Yeah, I think the one thing they can probably improve on is just their front line and getting more goals, because their defense is what has carried them through a lot of the season.
Yeah, I think their defense has. I think they're the best defense in the league, joint with Man City. When you look at statistics and whatnot, I don't know if that statistic still stands as of now, but last time I checked, best defense in the league, along with Manchester City's. Yeah, I agree. I think they've really struggled in terms of goal outputs. Raul Jimenez has had a poor season by his high standards that he set of himself, but of course, it's not going to be easy getting back to yourself after that horrendous head injury. What would you give Bruno Lage for this season? Now, for me, he's done a brilliant job. He's
done great. 'Cause truly, I thought it would be a bit of a transition after Nuno left. So I'd truly give him like an 8. I think Bruno Lage has done a really great job. They're really solid defensively. I mean, that says it right there. If you're 9 places below the first place team and match their defense, then you figure if you just can get a little more goal output, a little more quality up front, then the sky's the limit. They can compete for European football. So really well done, Wolves. I think they cannot let themselves drop below this. They need to keep fighting for top half next season. I guess for their season, I'd give them like a 7. Bruno Lage an 8. And I'll go best player, Ruben Neves.
100%. Ruben Neves has had a very good season. Next, we have Newcastle. Now, Sirius, over to you. Let's start off with Steve Bruce. We'll do a rating for Steve Bruce and then a rating for Eddie Howe.
Yeah, Newcastle gets a 0. They can piss off. No, but I guess Steve Bruce, I think he's just an average manager that's been across 90 million different clubs. So I'd give him a 2 because I just don't fancy him in general. And Eddie Howe, I guess he gets a 7. I actually rate Eddie Howe a lot. I rated him at Bournemouth. He took them all the way up. So yeah, I think he's a good coach.
I mean, how much credit do you have to owe to Eddie Howe? I mean, he's turned this Newcastle side around. I mean, this was a team that we thought could very well be going down to the championship.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised when they signed him, but he was good.
100%. Players that have stood out to you.
I think I think for sure Joelinton. I think he did win Newcastle Player of the Year. He was pretty good. I think his role of him, playing a little bit deeper helped him a lot. I think maybe he wasn't that natural goal scorer they thought he was at first, and he's been good. I think another player has been good. I think St. Maximin has always been good. Just has to work on that consistency. I think when they bring more quality with their owners, he'll be even better. I thought, I don't know
Nice.
if
I agree.
amazing the whole season, but I thought against us, yeah, he's really good against. So yeah.
Yes, I agree with
Exactly. You
I
took the words
agree.
right out of my mouth.
I agree 100% with everything Sirius has just said. Bruno Guimaraes, what a player, phenomenal. I will assume that's not already been said when Sirius when his mic went out there. Bruno Guimaraes he hit the ground running. And I really fancied the goal he scored against a certain team to send them out of the top four. I greatly fancied that, and I know Andre did as well.
I mean, Newcastle's a tough team to beat. It's not like Ben Davies scored against them this season.
And it's not like Man United drew against that team. I mean, if Man United could get a draw against that team, and I mean, Arsenal at least had to win that game. Anyways, Crystal Palace, 13th. But for me, I think where they finished in the table just definitely undermines how impressive they've been this season. Scores for Crystal Palace this season: Patrick Vieira, and players of the season, positive, negative, and most improved player since last season.
Yeah, I mean, they've done an excellent job. I mean, I think you guys all know how much I rate this the system that they use and how well they're doing. I was really skeptical at first because I saw Patrick Vieira trying to play a 4-3-3 with a team that's used to playing a 4-4-2, super defensive, sitting back and playing on the counterattack. But he's done it really well, and he's brought the best out of a lot of players, and he's set them up really well for the future, which I can appreciate. I think for standout players, I would have to say the two obvious ones, Conor Gallagher and Wilfred Zaha, both having exceptional seasons. I'd actually say Zaha is probably the most improved player, just because I think he's become more part of the system than he has been in previous years, where he's just doing it all on his own.
100%.
And then for players that maybe didn't have the best season, maybe Mateta. I feel like I could have seen a little bit more from him.
He had a really good run of form though.
He did have a good run of form, but I think he kind of tailed off, and he's not consistent enough for my liking. I think he can do a lot better. That's the main reason I'm saying him.
100%. I mean, a player that I was disappointed. I mean, he usually turns up twice a year, but he didn't even. I don't think he was even selected. I was really disappointed in Christian Benteke. I really wanted to see that LeBron James celebration against Arsenal.
I would have liked that as well.
I would have greatly fancied
He
it.
definitely would have scored a bicycle kick if he played against them.
If he had scored a bike, Maguire probably would have still raised his arm for offsides. But no. Yeah, to a certain extent, I agree with Mateta. I think a player who, my opinion, just he fell off a little bit, not tremendously, but he fell off a bit. Odsonne Edouard, he's still very young though. I rate him. He's a great player. I just think he's fallen off a little bit. I think he needs to find himself again. He fell off
I can agree with that pick.
in the recent months. But I know he'll get back to his old self and his good form that we know he has in soccer. Next, Brentford. For me, they well and truly surpassed expectations. Finishing, I'd say decent small for them. 13th for Brentford. Scores for Thomas Frank and Brentford for this season. Player of the season from not from a great standpoint, and most, I guess, yeah, you could say most improved players since last season. Andre, over to you.
Yeah, 13th, not a bad spot for Brentford. I think anytime you have a newly promoted side that's comfortably out of the relegation zone, that's the success on its own. So yeah, I think they're the only promoted side to survive. They finished 13th. They finished the season strong too. Um, Credit Thomas Frank, who was still very loved by the Brentford fans. I'd say the Ericsson transfer did them well, though he probably will be out in the summer. So you wonder.
Really? You think Christian Eriksen will leave, or do you think Brentford should dig their heels deep and beg him to stay for an extra year?
They can. I really don't think he will. I think he's kind of shown that he's ready. I think he signed a 6-month contract on purpose. So I highly doubt if he stays. I think there's a question of, hey, maybe they can go for another player in the sort of that has the same attributes of like an Ericsson. We've seen in the last couple of years a lot of really good attacking mids come into the league with players like Madison.
Oh yes, you want to know specifically attacking midfielders? Oh yes, I remember where you mentioned Kevin De Bruyne, Bruno Fernandes, and then Dele Alli. I greatly fancy that. Let's not forget that. I think it was either earlier this season or last season. You mentioned those three. Dele Alli. I can't be wrong.
Yeah. He's up there.
Player of the season for Brentford. Who would you say?
Player of the season for Brentford.
I mean, there was an obvious candidate, but you had some clever.
What do you think
last time around?
What player do you think? What was the obvious candidate?
I think an obvious candidate would be Ivan Toney.
But I don't
for them this season.
I mean, how many goals did he finish with this season? I mean, he's done well, but
double figures. I think he got into double figures.
I don't think he got to double figures. That's why I was thinking I might not give it to Ivan Toney.
I could be wrong. I don't know his exact goal tally, but
in terms of my expectations, I think David Raya has done a really great job. That's the one that I think of as a possibility. I don't know. I think they've really moved well as a team because I don't think there's anyone that is necessarily miles better than a lot of the players there or miles worse. I think they're kind of the definition of a team for me. So it's hard to handpick one player that's been good. But I think David Raya, Ivan Toney, what's his name?
Wies's had a good season as well.
I mean, Mbumo's had a lot of energy, but I'm trying to think of
Daniel James has a lot of energy.
Who's their number 7? What's his name?
Sergi Canos.
Canos.
The first goal of the season. I know Sears would know all about that.
Yeah, I even think Canos is kind of a nice addition to that team. I think he's fun to watch as a player too. So I think they're a good team. They're a solid just unit as a team. For the season, I'll probably give them like a 6, and I'll give Thomas Frank a 7.
Fair enough. Next, of course, into Aston Villa finishing 14th. And unlike Brentford, seriously, you'd have to say Aston Villa with the players and the money that they spent in the summer, the players that they even brought in January. I mean, you'd have to say, that's disappointing to a certain extent for Steven Gerrard. But I think if Dean Smith had stayed, I think it could have been even lower. Scores for Aston Villa's overall season and Steven Gerrard and standout players of the season, positive, negative.
Yeah, I don't think it's that impressive where they finished. They're much improved last season. I think I'd give them 3, 4 maybe, if I'm being nice. I think overall players that have been good at Matty Cash. I think he won Aston Villa Player of the Year. And John McGinn, he was good too. And I think when Coutinho came, he was really good. I think obviously scoring into Man City. I think he's been great, and I'm happy he's staying. I think it's gonna be fun to watch him again in the Premier League for a whole season. Players I haven't, I think Martinez, not saying he was bad, I just think he wasn't as good as last season.
Did you fancy, Emi Martinez and what he had to say about Arsenal when he went up against you guys?
Oh, well, someone just middle fingered on Andre's screen.
Thank you, Big Mike. We appreciate it.
But I think I don't know. I still fancy him, so I'm not gonna say anything bad. because he carried Argentina in those penalty shootouts.
100%. I definitely fancy what he did to Yeremina. I greatly fancy that. Definitely 100%. Who would your opinion would you say has been a player who's just drastically struggled or just underperformed this season?
I think Bailey, is that by Bailey?
Oh,
I think-
Leon Bailey.
Yeah, I
Struggled.
think coming from Bundesliga, I don't know, just inconsistent. I thought he would be the player of the season, to be honest, when he first came, but I was greatly wrong.
Fair enough. Next, of course, Southampton. They had a shocking season. Had a decent start, but as per usual, the one thing I'm surprised about was where the 9-0 score was, which it didn't happen this season. I'm kind of surprised. Jose, scores for Southampton and Ralph Hasenhüttl, and players of the season, positive, negative, and most improved player from last season.
Yeah, they were pretty shit. I would give them a 3 out of 10. I think that they actually have a pretty talented team and they could have done better. But they have some great players on their team, I must say. I think for their best player, it's pretty obvious. It's James Ward-Prowse, has to be. 10 goals and like 5 assists, I think, in the league, which
Most
is
of
very
them from the
impressive.
squad or from a depot.
Yeah, he's looking like the man we knew he could be for them this season. Obviously, I'm gonna say my favorite player on their team, Tino Livramento. Fantastic player. Another player to add to England's right back headache. And I'm really excited to see whether or not he leaves, because I think he could be really good at a team. I'd take him at United. I think he'd be a fantastic player for us. But otherwise, I'm excited to see how he develops next season.
100%.
For people who haven't been as good, maybe I would say,
I'd say Adam Armstrong. He hit. the
yeah,
rock
I was actually about to point. Yeah, I
Thanks.
would agree.
Armando
that.
Burgess of recent has struggled, although there's
Yeah, he has. A lot of their attacking options have really struggled this season.
100%. And for me, I think the most improved player from last season has to be Kyle Walker-Peters. Got himself an England call-up. I know Andre would know all about Kyle Walker-Peters. He's had a great season for Southampton. Can play right back and play left back. Seen him in central midfield. Andre, I actually have a question for you. What are your thoughts on Kyle Walker-Peters? How good has he been for Southampton this season? I ask you specifically because I think you may know a thing or two about Kyle Walker-Peters, wouldn't you?
I would. I definitely would. Yeah, I think he's been excellent. I think I always knew he was a player with potential. It was, I think, the transfer with Højbjerg and him, that swap deal was truly a transfer that worked out for both teams. I think Walker-Peters has definitely impressed me with some of his dribbling skills this season. Just his dribbling mechanics have improved greatly. He's not always predictable. He's not afraid to take that inverted run every once in a while and get closer to goal. He's not a fullback who's just kind of staying on the sideline and sending crosses in. He's a huge part of what Southampton do now. And yeah, I think he's been one of their better players this season. I'd probably put him in their top 5 players this season. I think he's
100%.
He's shown a lot of talent. He's definitely one of the most promising fullbacks in the league right now. It's going to be exciting to watch him.
Outstanding.
I mean, you could argue that this season he's probably outshined Tarek Lamptey just because Lamptey hasn't gotten too many.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, hands down. Serious Jose, would you agree with that? He's been
Yes.
better than Lamptey this season.
Yes, Dave, I would.
Yes, Dave.
No.
Thank you, Sears and Joe.
Yeah, Dave.
and thanks, Big Mike, we appreciate you, Big Mike. In 15th, Everton. I mean, what an awful season that they've had. I mean, for me, Andre. I mean, what more can we say about this Everton side that we haven't said already? Whether it's in the chat, whether it's on podcast episodes this season, whether it's now in the chat, whatnot, it's been awful for them this season. A score for Rafa Benitez and a score for Frank Lampard. I think the Rafa Benitez score is pretty simple. He did get the
Yeah.
win against Arsenal, and he did get to, see Andros Townsend hit the Sioux at Old Trafford. So,
Yeah.
maybe half a point for that.
Yeah. They've won 3 of their last 4 matches against Arsenal. I thought they were going to get relegated. I really did.
Serious.
I thought Everton were going down. I think since I've started following the Premier League, Everton for me is the most I think it's one of the most depressing teams to support. Either
I agree with that.
things don't go well. There are so few successes with Everton. Truly, for
Remember
me,
the beginning of last season, though. Just let's not forget
that
the
was
beginning
great.
of last season.
That was great.
Yeah,
Ancelotti's-
with Don Carlo. That's why
Yeah.
it was so
Don
good.
Carlo.
Yeah,
Where's the cigar for Don Carlo?
Where's the one raised eyebrow for Don Carlo?
yeah. That's sort of a perfect example of look how promising they looked under Ancelotti. So you figure, okay, this is going to be sort of the escalator for Everton. Now they've set a standard immediately as he leaves. Just thrown out the door. They try to bring another experienced manager, did not work out anywhere near the same. If I'm an Everton fan, I just have no idea where to put my expectations. At least if you support Burnley or something, you know what the expectation. Everton, you never know, and that's why they are hard to support, man. So my heart goes out to Everton fans.
Definitely.
Yeah. So the manager rating,
Rafa Benitez.
Yeah, Rafa. He's done a wonderful job. I'd give him a 3, I guess, 4.
I think he's well below that.
Below that. Huh? Yeah, let's go with 3.
I'll give him a 2.
I'll go 2. It was always everyone kind of thinks this is going to go wrong. It was always let's see. He had to prove us wrong, which he never did. He never got to. Lampard, he saved them from relegation, but I still think it was a mediocre job. I don't think Everton. It takes time to establish an identity with a team. I don't think Lampard had that, but with his time there, I don't think he established one. I think they scraped by relegation because of the talented players they had, Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin and so on. I'll give Lampard. I'll give him a 5.
Fair enough. Standout players of the season on a positive spectrum and from a negative spectrum.
Yeah, Anthony Gordon. We have to talk about him.
100%.
Gordon is seriously a great player. When they played, a lot of the times in the latter half of the season, he was their most dangerous player. He was the one who was doing something on the field when he had the ball. So Gordon, for me, their player of the season, for sure, at least a young player of the season. I think he's done a great job. At the beginning of the season, we saw Damari Gray doing really well, but he fell off. He couldn't keep that form up. So I just want to mention that as sort of a negative. That was kind of disappointing. Dele Alli was also definitely a negative. That was probably one of the worst transfers of the season.
Apparently, if you got a certain number of appearances, the total fee would be 40 million or something.
Yeah.
So
it was. Yeah. So I don't know what's going to happen with him.
He's probably going to stay, to be honest with you.
We'll see.
Who on earth would take Dele Alli right now for the wages he's probably on?
Tottenham.
I was going to say United.
Yeah, true. He is English. He is English. So and he has a certain status in the Premier League, and Sir Alex would probably recommend it. So that would mean buy in any capacity. And players, player from last season, actually.
Yeah, I'd still go Gordon. Yeah, I think. I guess for their overall season, it was below average season for Everton, but they didn't survive. So I'll give them a 4 for the season. I do think the sides that appointed managers to stay up, i.e. Leeds and Everton, I honestly do think could be our front runners for the sack race going into the next season. I wouldn't be surprised if Lampard or Jesse Marsch are fired first. I think the man to bring into Everton is Sean Dyche. I think he'd be perfect.
I agree with that 100%. Next, Leeds United in 17th, with a win against I think it was at Brentford, saved themselves from relegation on the final day. I think it was 36 points. Burnley losing on the final day. Serious for Leeds. Scores for their overall season. And I'll do a score for Bielsa. I'll do a score for Jesse Marsch. And player of the season, I think everyone knows who that is. It's going to be Rafinha. It's pretty freaking obvious. And most disappointing player of the season, and the player who, in your opinion, gets the most improved from last season title.
Yeah, it was, I guess, a pretty disappointing season considering last year they I don't know, it surprised people how decent they did. I think I don't know, it was a little sad to see Bielsa go because I think he did play good football. But yeah, I think I guess he's managed to save them from relegation. Give him a 5. I think Bielsa.
Yes, I agree with that.
For his season, this season a 2. I think there wasn't. There's some bright sides to it. They didn't.
100%.
Is my connection being really bad right now?
I can compare
Wait,
your
1 second.
connection to Nuno Tavares' ability to.
Okay, can you hear me better now?
Yes, we can hear you much better now.
It should be better now. No.
It is.
Okay, so I think there are some decent players. Example, Rafinha. I think Jack Harrison is good on the wing. I think it sucks that Brentford didn't get many games. I think another player who was decent was Stuart Dallas. I thought he was decent. Some players who were shocking, and I mean shocking. Junior Firpo is so arse. Oh my days! I remember watching him at Barca.
100%.
So dreadful. Someone else who's absolute ball sacks is your boy Dan James. Oh my days.
Actually, hold on. To be honest with you, Daniel James, you know what? When they had no strikers and he had to play as
And he's shag. Don't defend him.
he had to
so
play as a
sad.
9 for a certain amount of the season. You know what? He was scoring them goals. I'm not giving him the excuse because we got rid of him. Man United got rid of Daniel James for a reason. He was not good enough. 30 million pounds, I'll take it all day. Was not worth 30 million pounds. I wouldn't, probably wouldn't have even paid 10 million pounds for him. But to be honest with you, he definitely wasn't the worst player. I think he was miles away from the worst player. Seeing that, the man's trying to win headers against people that are like 3 heads taller than him. I can't really expect him to win those kinds of balls. He's not a hold-up striker. Can't do that for you.
Yeah, I think someone else the last 2 years who I was excited for them to pick up, Rodrigo. He was good in the La Liga and 6 goals. Not that great.
He plays like center mid now. I don't know why.
I don't know, because I remember he even got called up for Spain 2 years ago.
Yes,
he was doing that well.
He was good.
100%. A player that I did want to mention actually, and I know Andre has mentioned him time and time again, Joe Gelhardt. I mean, he's mentioned him so many times. Andre, thoughts on Joe Gelhardt's season? How good has he been?
Yeah, I think that is a talent right there. I love watching him play. He had that. Was it against Brentford that he had that really cool where he scooped the ball over the player? Do you know what I'm talking about? Like someone tried to slide it.
Yes.
Yeah, Rafinha. No, it wasn't Rafinha that scored. Someone else scored the goal, but he was the one that he was dribbling on the touchline.
Yeah.
And then a guy try to slide tackle him, and he scoops the ball over him, runs around, sends the cross, and it was a really good play by him.
Cool story.
Yeah, I know, huh? So that guy's a talent. I like Gelhardt a lot.
100%. And serious. Wait, what did you give Jesse Marsch for his game so far?
I gave him a 5, I think, because he kept them up.
Fair enough. And next we are going into Joe Maga's other favorite team, other than Real Madrid, and of course the team that was shite this season. But another team that was shite this season, Burnley. Season ratings for Burnley, Mr. Jose, and standout players of the season. positive worst players of the season and most improved player from last season, even though they're going down.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much to say. Like, they didn't have a good season, but I don't think anyone was predicting them to have that great of a season. I mean, I think I had them finishing fairly low in the table, so it's like it's not that bad. Um, I would say standout players. I mean, the usual lads who are good: Tarkovsky, McNeil, Nick Pope. Yeah, I'd say those three are the best. Cornet was good. Cornet was good. I think he got injured.
I'd say White Horse hit the ground running. Course fell off a little
White Horse
bit.
hit the ground running, but then ended up not really
Yeah.
doing anything.
No, he didn't.
So I think if they were in the Premier League next year, I would love to see White Horse do his thing, but I don't know. I think it's gonna be tough to keep him this summer, in my opinion. For negatives, I'd go a lot of the attacking players. Wood, when he was there, was shocking. Goodmanson, not very good this season. Jay Rodriguez, absolute shite. Ashley Barnes, absolute shite.
I mean, I don't think he's played all season, to be honest.
I mean, these players, I'm looking at these players, they haven't even played that much, but it's still, they're still absolute shit. So anyways, what's the next thing I have to say? It's the ratings. I'd give Burnley a 3 out of 10. I'd give Sean Dyche like a 7 out of 10.
I give him a GOAT status out of 10.
Yeah, because I like him a lot, and I think he was very hard done by.
100%. And Mike Jackson. Is it Mike Jackson? Nick Jackson. I can't remember his first name.
Is he their manager now?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been shag. I give him a 2.
To be fair, I think he was okay. Not as obviously he's not Sean Dyche, but I don't think he was terrible.
I don't think he was terrible either. I think it's tough to do well with this Burnley side.
Exactly.
Sean Dyche is very good at it.
I'll probably give him a 4, to be honest with you. I think he did okay. Considering the games that he had to play in. 4, I'd say. 19th, of course, Watford. Andre. Scores and season ratings for Watford for this Premier League season, and standout players from a positive side, a negative side, and most improved player since last season, even though they were in the championship. I think player of the season needs to be quite obvious for me. But
yeah,
it's up to you though.
Yeah, I mean, Watford's pretty shit. They've been horrible this season. I don't even remember them being out of the relegation zone, like almost at all. They don't learn. They always come up fire. I don't even know how many managers they've gone through 3 managers at minimum this season for my.
They even announced they were going to sack Roy Hodgson before the end of the season.
Like, they don't learn. So it's just you know what? To me, they're the worst team this season. They were just abysmal. I give them a 1.
Worse than Norwich.
Yeah, they were worse than Norwich. At least Norwich showed something in games. Watford just really didn't to me. They just once in a while somehow fluked a good result for themselves. But I think they've been as abysmal this season. Musa Sissoko was there a week and they made him captain. That shows that they're not at the quality of the Premier League.
They were unbeaten against Man United this season. They were unbeaten against Manchester United this season.
That's impressive.
No, it isn't.
No, it isn't. That's what I'm saying. It's not that hard. It's really not that hard.
We can do it. They're not at the standard that the Premier League demands right now. So yeah, I think Watford have been not good in terms of standout players. The cycling goalkeeper has done some good content.
The cycling GK. The cycling GK. That that man is an absolute legend. That man is a living legend, honestly.
Yeah.
So
he balled, he cycled, he showed us some good content. He was pretty good.
Content.
Emmanuel Dennis had that period where he was scoring a lot.
Emmanuel Dennis, for me, he's their player this season. I think he did get double figures, if I'm not wrong. Jose and Sears if you can check me on that. I think he did get double figures this season. That's unbelievably impressive. Getting double goals in that side. The man was Ronaldo in regards to scoring the goals for them all season. No, I'm not saying those two are anywhere near each other. I'm not.
Yeah.
And
I am. He's almost as good as Ronaldo.
maybe just a slightly below him. 20th Norwich, and before the over to you, a question I want to ask: will they win the championship next year and be back in the Premier League?
Well, no.
Anyways, Norwich 20th. I think all of us fully predicted that at the beginning of the season. I think we predicted that even before last season ended, that they would finish 20th this league campaign. Who, in your opinion, would you say, other than Timo Pukki, has been you could say a standout player for them this season, as well as players that haven't been as great? And what would you give? I'll say Dean Smith. He's been at the wheel for most of the season. What would you give Dean Smith for his tenure as well?
Well, if I had to give both managers or anything about Norwich, I'd give it to 0 out of 10 because holy shocking, they're disgusting to watch. I feel bad for Pukki. Obviously not as good as last season, but he still scored 11 goals, which is not bad. And then their second highest goal scorer, you know how many they had? 2. So that just says everything. And then who's their top assister? Oh, Timo Pukki with 3. 3. If your top assister, if you're playing 36, 37 games, your top assister has 3 assists at the end of the season. There's something desperately wrong with your side. Just awful stuff. They have a bunch of wash players. Tim Krul, he's only good at saving penalties. He can piss off. The rest of them, they can all piss off. They're all shocking. Not good enough for the Prem. I'm sure they'll do fine in the championship, but I really don't think they're going up. And when you have Brandon Williams at left back, everything bad will happen to you. So there's that.
He's actually one of their better players this season.
Shut up, Devi.
No, he wasn't. No, I'm not saying he had a good season by any means. I'm just
Devi,
saying
shut up.
He definitely wasn't the absolute worst. He wasn't the absolute worst. They were played. You're telling me he was the worst player at Norwich this season. I'm sorry, but I strongly disagree. And it's not because of a Manchester United bias. Watching the performances.
Well, Billy Gilmore.
Every week, but
yeah.
He was the worst player at Norwich.
Thank you, Big Mike, for the comment. Unfortunately,
hey, Big Mike, shut up.
Thank you, Sirius. We love it. We appreciate it. We absolutely.
Shut up, Dave.
Oh my god.
Okay. Well, let's move on.
100%. Let's move on. For me, worst player of Norwich, that has to be Grant Hanley. He's dreadful, honestly. I mean, when I look at him and Michael Keane and Harry Maguire, like they're all of like a similar like breed of center back. Like
the true Geordie was comparing stats between Maguire and Grant Hanley, and they were very comparable. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay, there are a few things where I go up with stats, but with Maguire, the stats do not lie. That's a place where I will agree with the stats. Anyways, just getting on to now next part of our show, our picks of the season. Player of the year in the league. Jose, I'll start with you.
For me, it has to be De Bruyne. I mean, originally I didn't even have him in my team of the season, but I stuck him in at the last second because I realized I was a bit mistaken. He really carried Man City this season a lot, and he basically provided a lot of the goal scoring threat that they didn't have from a central striker. I saw him play live in the derby and in Manchester, and I was really impressed.
Yeah, my commiserations go to you.
With how with how physical he was, and how pacey he still is, and how much power he puts in every shot and every motion. He's a really impressive player to watch.
I think in that game, we should have given man of the match to Harry Maguire. I think he got the assist for 2 of their goals.
He did get the assist for 2 of their goals. Well, actually, he dummied one of them.
Still counts as an assist. Serious. Player of the season. Brandon
Yeah,
Chapman.
I'm gonna have to go with KDB.
De Bruyne.
Yeah, I think he's strong into the season, scoring 4 against who was it? Newcastle, was it? Or am I? Yeah. So kiss me if
No
I'm wrong,
moron, it was
Levi, but
Wolves.
I think it's Newcastle.
It
I
was
mean, I think
Wolves,
it's
you
KD.
moron.
Oh, shag. It's still KDB.
Andre, how would you say he's the Premier League player of the season? I don't. Are you gonna say Kevin De Bruyne or someone else?
No, I go Mohamed Salah. So
What is wrong with you?
I mean,
he's top
I'm
goals and
sure-
assists, and he's
He's the most
impressing
anti.
everyone.
Mohamed Salah is the most anti-clutch player I've ever seen in my life. Mans has never showed up to one final he's been in. I'm sorry.
I think
he
Salah's-
did show up against a certain club that wins a lot of trophies in the Champions League final. But other than that, yeah, I can't really remember.
By the way, there's a stat: 11 finals. Salah has 0 non-penalty goals. So there's that. Oh, and there she goes.
Fair enough. For me, it definitely is a difficult one. If one were to ask me, I mean, one could get. I mean, Mohamed Salah, how good has he been this season? He's been really, really good, 100%. This one I had in mind, I think Andre would fancy it. No, I'm not going to say Harry Kane before anyone else. I think Heung-min Son has to be given a shout. He's had a top season for Spurs. He basically, in terms of goals, he basically fired Spurs into top 4, if you think about it. And also, I could give it to, unless if there's an elephant in the room, then fine. But for me, I don't really like to make things incredibly obvious all the time. I like to give the interesting picks, the cheeky picks, for the season. But I mean, for me, I'd probably go with Son. Top goal scorer of the season.
That's a good shout.
I'd give him the golden boot. I wouldn't give Salah the golden boot just because the man scored 0 penalty goals this season. Son scored 0 penalty goals this season, not 1. Yeah, probably give it to Son. And right now, and I think Bruno Fernandes has taken hold of Sirius' screen there, because I just can't see anything there. I don't see anyone. He's gone missing. Yeah, I guess so. Oh, yep, and he has pulled a.
Sorry, I was fixing my Wi-Fi. But what was the question?
Pulled Bruno Fernandes turned up, finally turning up. Next, player of the year, but not necessarily the best player in the Premier League, but in regards to expectations, in regards of what we predicted they would be, perhaps in regards to performances this season, not necessarily the outright obvious pick, but someone that I'd say more or less just went well and beyond expectations in terms of the job that they did for their side. Jose, starting with you.
I'll throw in Jared Bowen. I don't think I don't think I was predicting him to have as good of a season as he had. And I think he really established himself as one of the top wingers in the Premier League this season.
Outstanding, yeah. He's had an outstanding season. Sirius, over to you.
I'm gonna say, well, is this like technically like most improved, or is it like
just players that isn't necessarily like the outright obvious choice or picks, but players that really and truly just basically just went well and beyond expectations in terms of just
I'm gonna go with Jota then, because he had the same amount of goals as Mane, and I think that's quite impressive.
Fair enough. Andre, what about you? And don't say Eric Dyer, please.
I'm what is he showing us right now?
I think he's showing
is he showing his goals?
I'm showing that Mane has one more goal than Diogo Jota.
Oh.
That's a very good one. But then again, I probably wouldn't have known off the top of my head. Andre, who would you say?
Yeah, I don't know. This is a tough one for me.
For me, I think it's a very obvious candidate, 100%.
You know what? Maybe I'll
Or an obvious candidate. There are many candidates, obviously. But there's one that definitely screams out for me. But what would you say?
what are you thinking? Yeah, I was actually thinking of someone outside the top
No,
six.
that's
I'd
fine.
go Arsenal. If not, I think of a few players at Arsenal maybe, because I didn't expect them to finish fifth. I think it's still an accomplishment. They were finishing.
Put it for one pick. Who would you pick? I want to see.
Say yours first. I'm still thinking.
No, because you may copy my.
Does he play for Arsenal?
No.
Okay, then I'm probably not to. You know what? Let's do that. I'll go Martinelli.
Yeah, not a bad shot. Conor Gallagher. When he came into Crystal Palace, I don't think anyone would have expected for him to have the impact that he did. And he outperformed Wilfried Zaha. Added goals to his name. Got how many? I think he's gotten 3 senior call-ups. Southgate's called him up. It's either twice. Called him up for the summer camp. Definitely called him up once before. I think he got called up again. I could be wrong, but 2 to 3 times. Conor Gallagher, outstanding. He just edged out Kevin De Bruyne in my team this season. Again, I wanted to make it interesting. Although, I can't think of my midfield trio. I think I think my midfield trio was Bernardo Silva, Conor Gallagher, and Declan Rice. That's not a bad midfield at all, is it? But yeah, I go with Conor Gallagher. Manager of the year. Jose, starting with you.
For me, Vieira.
Yeah.
Maybe unpopular choice because Pep and Klopp's success this year, but
They
I
don't
think
count. Pep and Klopp just do not count.
yeah, for me it's got to be Vieira. I love the job he's done. I love the way that Crystal Palace have been playing this season. And I think I think I may have had Crystal Palace going down this season, so I think he really impressed me.
Yeah, and it's funny because I remember I'm pretty sure all 3 of you said that Vieira was going to be, close to top of the sack list.
Yeah, what kind of team of Crystal Palace's level play a 4-3-3 and actually do it successfully?
No, and I don't blame you for it. Patrick Vieira has come in and he's been fantastic. Oh, by the way, a quick shout out to the squad, the Slow Tonight squad. You know who you are. Coming in clutch as always.
Actually, I don't want to say as a Spurs fan, I actually genuinely fear the idea of Vieira coaching Arsenal. Genuinely, I think it would elevate them to a whole. I hope Arteta stays because I fear Vieira Arsenal.
Not Mikel Artekers.
Yeah, I fear Vieira Arsenal more, just personally.
Fair enough. Serious. Who would your manager this season be? Would it be Arteta? Definitely for not just 1 but 2 quality performances and Amazon All or Nothing documentaries. I think this one he's gonna absolutely break reviews. This one's gonna be amazing. I think the Arsenal will be better than the Tottenham one, in my opinion. I'm really excited to see it. From just seeing what goes on behind the scenes, and just for some laughs and giggles. Serious, who would your manager of the year be?
I'm gonna have to go with Joe's pick. Vieira, I think it was impressive what he did. I thought Crystal Palace was not going to do as well as they did. So yeah, but I'd still rather have Arteta. So taste my nuts, Andre.
Well, Andre went with Vieira. Vieira would probably be my pick as well, but I'd throw out Eddie Howe. He's definitely one that I would consider to turn Newcastle around drastically. One could even consider Antonio Conte. The way that Tottenham were looking dreadful, basically him and Heung-min Son and Harry Kane only deciding to pick up once they actually hit some form, because let's be real, Harry Kane had been quite invisible the whole season. So I'd probably say, a few games into Conte's start, into the start of Antonio Conte's reign. Yeah, I'd probably go Patrick Vieira. Eddie Howe probably coming in second for me. Young player of the year. Jose.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to say Conor Gallagher. I think I think he's 20. If he's not eligible, if he's like 23 or 24, then I'll go Tino Livramento.
100%. Sirius, what about you?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with Joe.
Not the first time Sirius has agreed with Joe with picks. Andre, what about you? Who'd your young player of the year be?
Yeah, I'll go Gallagher.
Yeah, I said Gallagher before.
So, yeah.
I said Gallagher before for my player of the season for players who the expectations on their shoulders. I always try to make things a bit different. Young player of the season, maybe Declan Rice. Just trying to change it up, but yeah, my pick would probably be Gallagher. But to try and make things just a tad bit interesting at least. Yeah, I'd probably go with Declan Rice. If we're keeping things interesting to a little bit. Mark Leahy, Tyrick Mitchell as well. Both of them also receiving England calls. I've had great season for Palace as well.
Anthony Elanga?
Throw up on Elanga, man. Nah, leave him alone. Leave him alone, man. That kid has received a lot of pressure into coming into, honestly, probably one of the worst sides you could be nurtured into. So, but just I'd give him a chance. But then again, one thing we'll say, if the promising youngster, the preseason Pirlo, Andreas Pereira had been here this season, he would have blown the Premier League away. Would have taken it by storm. Andreas Pereira, honestly, what a class player. Who would your Premier League side of the season be in terms of being the dark horse, exceeded expectations? Who would your dark horse be of the season?
For me, it has to be Palace, just because I had them going down, and then they finished 12th. So definitely them for me.
Fair enough. Sirius.
Well, I don't want to copy Joe again, but I'm gonna have to copy Joe again.
I think there is definitely other teams that you could have gone for that.
Oh,
Yeah.
check me a new one. Tell me who. I found Brentford. There, taste it.
Andre, who would your dark horse team of the season be?
Dark horse of this season. Ooh. Maybe like a Brighton. Sorry, there's like a really squeaky chair. It just sounds so stupid. Stop moving. All right. Yeah, I think it's like a. Yeah, Brighton's.
Well.
Wait, Newcastle.
Yeah,
Newcastle.
I was going to throw
Newcastle.
I was probably going to go Newcastle. I know Palace is
Newcastle.
always one I would throw in Newcastle. The most disappointing team of the season, because I got the name of mine right, and in my head, I'm pretty sure Joe does as well. Joe, is it as I think it is?
I wasn't paying any attention. What was the question?
Oh,
Most disappointing team of the season.
Oh, my team, Manchester United.
Oh yeah, 100%. That's exactly what I would go for, and exactly as I was saying, I'm sure Joe would agree with me. Sirius, what about you?
I'm gonna go with Everton.
Yeah, that's not a bad shout. I mean, one could go for Arsenal.
No.
Unfortunately, one,
What do you mean Arsenal, you moron? We were, Dave, I like the start of the season.
Joking.
Oh, they're gonna get relegated.
No.
No.
Okay, seriously. No, I didn't say that they were going to get relegated. The reason I said Arsenal.
I will point out that I had Arsenal finishing 5th, and they finished in 5th.
Oh, I'd point out that no one asked you.
Well,
I mainly said that. I mainly said
let everyone know.
for purposes of joke. Andre, what about you?
I think given the expectations that we had for United this season, they've been the most underwhelming. I mean, everyone was saying that the gap between the top 4 and the rest of the can you stop moving? The gap between the top 4 and the rest of the league was like obvious. They were a title contender, a weak one, but a title contender nonetheless. So United for sure, like the most underwhelming. Yeah,
100%. Yeah. So you Manchester United. One can throw in Everton. One could even throw in Leicester. but no, it has to be Manchester United, doesn't it? It has to be. New signings, biggest success, best signing of the season. Jose, who are we saying?
Cristiano Ronaldo.
You know what? That's not a bad shout because without
Can't
Ronaldo,
argue
I
with
think
that, huh?
you would be in 14th.
He
You
carried
would be in
us.
14th. Without
I
Ronaldo,
think you'd rather choose someone from Spurs. We got fourth place. With
Okay,
like,
then Kulusevski. I like him a lot.
not a bad signing as well. Serious. What about you? Signing of the season.
Does Odegaard count? Because we technically just
Yeah,
signed
that
him.
counts. Yeah,
All right, then Odegaard.
fair enough. If you're asking me who the Premier League signing of the season is, it really is a difficult one, to be honest with you. But Cristiano Ronaldo is definitely up there. Juan Kulusevski, the impact Luis Diaz has had since he's come into Liverpool, and even looking at sides, lower in the table, Christian Eriksen's been sensational, but he's only played for 6 months, so it's kind of hard to throw him in. Bruno Guimaraes, same sort of thing, same sort of idea. Elise has had a phenomenal season for.
I would throw out Romero from
Yeah.
Tottenham as well.
Yeah, he's had a good season as well. Christian Romero's had a really good season. I mean, off the top of my head, those are just some. If I had to choose one, it really is difficult. But my United bias will probably just edge Ronaldo ahead of everyone else, because how on earth is he still getting almost 20 goals in a side as bad as that? So I'll probably give it hats off to Cristiano Ronaldo, although it's very difficult. Worst signing of the season.
Well, for me, this one's a toss-up between Lukaku and Grealish. I would probably just give it to Grealish over Lukaku.
I'd probably go Lukaku over Grealish, just because Lukaku.
For me, just because Lukaku scored that goal in the Club World Cup final, I believe, which is I don't know, a bit of a plus. Whereas Grealish didn't do shag.
Fair enough. I mean, you could go with either. Serious, what about you?
In terms of big player signings, definitely, it's so. I'm gonna say Grealish because he was more.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Grealish also missed the 2 chances in the Champions League semifinal.
Yeah, but I thought he was good that game when he came on. I think those.
I
were
mean,
hard
yeah, he
times.
looked good. He didn't put his chances away, and then they lost.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I guess one could say that. Andre, what about you? Worst signing of this season in the Premier League?
I actually don't like Grealish didn't come to my head first. I think for me, I either go Lukaku or Dele Alli.
Yeah, that's not about Sean.
Yeah. I'll go. I mean, you figure if is it confirmed if Lukaku's going to move on this season?
No, nothing's confirmed. I know. I think it's very obvious that he wants to.
Yeah.
I think he obviously wants to go back to Inter. I think it's very obvious. Will he? I don't think he's going anywhere, to be honest with you. I mean, if he gets to move back to Inter, I'll be shocked. And if he does, it'll be on substantially decreased wages for a substantially decreased fee. No, there's no way Chelsea will recoup that money that they spent for Romelu.
That's what I was going to say. They literally signed a player and like just immediately decreased his value by maybe half.
I think Tuchel will
potentially half.
They have to keep faith. They invested 150 million pounds in him. I mean, they have to keep faith. They have to, try and build around him. At least try and give him another shot for next year. At least 2 seasons.
Why do you think it's been the players with the heaviest price tags that have kind of both flunked?
Pressure. In my opinion, just living up to the price tag. I mean, look at the world's most expensive defender. If you just watch purely off of performances and you didn't know who costs what price, if someone asked me, who's the world's most expensive defender, I don't think I could name a single person, unless if they were joking, would ever name Harry Maguire. Ever. So for me, it's definitely the price tags has to be huge. contributor to it. Of course, at times it's just struggling to just raise your game and to step it up. But for me, price tag is a huge part of it, definitely. If you're asking me, I'll probably say Romelu Lukaku. He really hasn't been that great. He's really struggled, really struggled since coming in. Whether he can pull it together or not, we'll have to see. And another player who struggled, Nikola Vlasic, came into West Ham sort of like as that Jesse Lingard replacement. Although I think Jay Lings could very well be back at West Ham next season after he will leave Manchester United at the end of the month with the likes of Paul Pogba, with the likes of Nemanja Matic, etc., etc. So for me, I think he's definitely up there, but I'll probably give it to Lukaku. Promoted clubs, of course, Fulham, Bournemouth, Nottingham Forest going up. For me, Nottingham Forest, congrats to them. Haven't been in the Premier League since 1999. Looking at these three sides and looking at what they've done in the Championship, right? Is there anything that the Premier League sides in the Premier League right now should take note of, to watch out for, to rewatch, maybe to take a look at what they did well in the Championship, players, manager, etc. Things to watch out for from these sides coming up?
I mean, you've got to think about Mitrovic. I think he had a record-breaking season in the Championship last year. Honestly, I don't think it's that big of a worry. I honestly think Fulham and Bournemouth could well just go straight back down. Nottingham Forest, I don't know that much about them, but I'm excited to see them. I know they're a club with a lot of history in the Premier League and the Champions League as well, actually. So I think I'm excited to see how they play.
100%. I mean, they have more history than both of the London clubs that they, the PLPT family supports. Because at least we know how it feels like to win a Champions League title. But I mean, for me, I think a player that you have to look at, James Garner, went on loan and he smashed it at Nottingham Forest. He was absolutely phenomenal. But for me, I think the biggest takeaway, Jed Spence. He has been superb for Nottingham Forest this season, has attracted a lot of interest for me. The way we were talking about Ivan Toney at the end of last season in the season finale, I regard Jed Spence in the same way. Whether he goes back to Nottingham Forest on a permanent basis because he is on loan for Middlesbrough, for me, he's been superb for Nottingham Forest, and for me, I'm excited to hopefully see him in the Premier League next season. Last but not least, just a few brief end of the season reflections and conclusions, and just what are your thoughts on the overall season, just as a whole? Jose, I'll start with you. Probably not in the best connotations, I'm predicting.
Well, I mean, I tried to forget about this season a bit in the Premier League, but my other team did pretty well this season, so I was happy about that.
I would say something else.
Fair weather fan.
Yeah, serious.
Serious. What are your thoughts on the overall Premier League season that is just unfolded in front of us?
Yeah, I actually thought it was a really good season. You had relegation battle, Premier League battle all the way to the end. It wasn't boring. Champions League battle, I think it was the perfect season.
Yeah. For the two London clubs did very well in the top four race, whereas my club was just nowhere near. Andre, what about you?
Yeah, I think it was a season where, I think the spot that teams placed felt correct. I think it was everyone finished where they were meant to. I think
Except for
it was
us.
exciting. I think it was really exciting to have like the North London clubs both be competing for that fourth spot. Like that was just a huge highlight of my season. And then the relegation, the title race, like everything really went to the last day. So that was really exciting. I think the only thing is like it did feel like Norwich and Watford were just miles worse than the rest of the league. So I think the teams that were promoted this season weren't it wasn't the most competitive league that we've had, to be honest. But it was a good season. I enjoyed it. There weren't many boring moments, really.
100%. I agree with everything you just said. I mean, from a Manchester United perspective, I'm just glad I've seen the light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm free, to be honest with you. and I think Jose just can say the same comfortably. Last question before we call up season 2 of Premier League Primetime. Overall thoughts on the journey of this channel in season 2. What to look for in the future. I know Andre is cracking the lap for 2. But so I'll start with you, just especially when looking at last season, you saw something there. Channel's grown. Just your overall thoughts on the journey of the season, and what would you look for the channel going into potentially yet another season?
Well, it's it's been a long journey. I remember when I posed the idea to you to we should have a podcast, and I didn't really think anything of it at the time, but you took it, you made it into what it is today, and I appreciate it. And I've had a great time filming the podcast these past 2 seasons. Might be a bit difficult next year with my time difference in London, but I'm sure we'll make it work.
We have to make it work.
I'm looking forward to it.
No way. And I mean, for me, the way I'm looking at the way I see Jose right now, it's like Cristiano Ronaldo's importance to Man United. You're going nowhere. You're absolutely going nowhere. Serious. What about you?
Yeah, it's been really fun. Thanks for starting this. Big Mike or whoever your name is, shut up. But yeah, I think it's been really fun. I'm excited for next season. I'm excited to talk about the World Cup too. It's gonna be interesting with the middle of the season. Yeah. Oh, what does he
My
do?
local sources are telling me that Cyrus is thinking about hanging up his boots. Just throwing that out there.
My local sources are telling me that Sky Sports Mika is contacting me, lads.
And Andre, lastly to you, thoughts on just this overall season and the journey that we've gone under the season, and what do you think we should look for potentially for another year, expectations?
Yeah, I think the season has felt like really long, and that like a lot of like I don't think there's been a team that's been like explicitly like exactly where we think they are. It's felt like every team has had their moment to shine this season for the most part. I'm
talking about the channel.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm getting there. Okay.
Go for it.
So like when I think back to a lot of the episodes, it was like we were talking about things like that. Like I don't think like the first season we did this, I felt like some of the talking points were repetitive. I don't think there were episodes that were like repetitive. It was a lot of like it was a different thing every time. One episode it seemed like, for example, like this team is going to finish top 4, and this next time it's this. Like it was cool. I think that was cool. That every episode did have something different, and it was reflective of what was going on in the league. So yeah, it's a good season. Good season.
And lastly, over to me before we close it. For me, like when I look at this season, I've definitely seen things that have improved within the channel. I think about where it all started. And one of my mates called me headphones because I just wear those clunky headphones that look dreadful. And just coming into it now, still continuing this yet again for another season. I mean, one of my friends here called me the Ronaldo of Premier League Primetime. Just, I mean, no one can say that I haven't. It cannot be said without you three. This channel would not be where it is. But with myself starting it and basically building it with you three at the very heart of it, this channel continues to grow, and it's progress and growth and look, and it's something that not only I would want to see for another year, another season, but yet again, it's just been a phenomenal journey, a phenomenal season from a podcast point of view. From the Premier League season, I'm glad it's done. But there you have it to end the season 2 finale. Thank you for watching this. Season 2 is done, and smash like on this video, subscribe. What have you thought of the Premier League this season? And let us know what you're thinking down in the comments below. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Instagram, and wherever you are watching this in the world. Have a great day.